commercial real estate as all of the businesses have shifted to working from home, and you're seeing the issues with the commercial real estate. No one's there, and of course the problems with some of the cities with the influx of illegal immigrants making it dangerous. You're seeing many of the shops close, the restaurants close, the even the chains like Whole Foods or Walgreens, pull up tent and leave. And the revenue, as you mentioned, for the city in terms of the revenue they take in through taxes is beginning to be very strained. And as more of these shops and restaurants and bars leave because there's no business, because all of the white collar people are now working from home, they start to leave. So then you start to have a problem with the services of the municipalities. There's not as good of a trash removal. There's too much delay in police. There's not as they're not as efficient if you call 911 or if you need an ambulance. And all of these social services begin to get strained due to the lack of tax revenue. So then people leave because of this, which only creates more of an issue, which creates it's an urban doom loop. And I am very concerned about that, especially in some of the cities. I've talked about that former one AT&T center in St. Louis that sold for $205 million in 2006, recently sold for $3.7 million. And so you're beginning to see the inner cities really, really face a problem with taxation and the ability to maintain, as you mentioned, not only their bonds, but the services that go with it. And then as we take a look at what's happening with the residential real estate, part of the issue is that the majority of all of the mortgages are locked in at 3 and 4%. And that's great until, like you said, you lose your job. And one of the issues is that during the last several years, with interest rates that were suppressed as these mortgages were locked in and all of the free money that was thrown at the system, and all of the people moving to places like Florida, you mentioned where you live is an epicenter of foreclosure. Well, everyone left, like me, Minnesota, and you, Ohio, and others left the Midwest and came places like this. And with that, you saw massive acceleration in property value due to low interest rates and easy money. And so all of these people are locked in at low interest rates and at high value purchase prices. And so you have a situation where, as the economy is slowing, as rates have gone up, and there is less demand for houses, no one is selling. There's less demand for purchasing houses, but at the same time, there's not very many houses to be sold because a lot of these people can't leave. They're locked in to their mortgages, and there has not been an equilibrium adjustment yet between interest rates, the market, and home values.
Did you know a former AT&T center in St. Louis, once valued at $205 million, recently sold for just $3.7 million? That's a shocking 98% drop, highlighting the growing cracks in the US real estate market. Andy Schechtman warns of an urban doom loop, where businesses are abandoning major cities, leading to plummeting tax revenues, failing city services, and a sharp decline in property values. Even major retailers like Whole Foods and Walgreens are pulling out, leaving empty storefronts and a bleak future for commercial real estate. Meanwhile, homeowners are trapped in low-interest mortgages with inflated property values, unable to sell or move as insurance rates and taxes skyrocket. This vicious cycle could have devastating consequences for the entire economy.
And so they're irrationally priced. And so when you have the state or the municipalities basing property tax off of these escalated values as the economy is slowing, certainly it's becoming an issue. In fact, my home has increased every single year, but since I've been here since 2021, but you could argue that over the last several months that the demand for homes in this area have come down. But not only that, insurance prices have gone way up. And you want to hear something? The most absurd thing that I've seen in a long time, and this is in the CPI. The article that I read was titled "The Most Absurd Number in the CPI." According to the U.S. government, the cost of health insurance has declined 31% over the last 2 years and 10% over the last 5 years. Now, that's not true. Insurance is going through the roof, whether it be health insurance or home insurance or car insurance. In Minnesota, where I left, car insurance is up 65%, the most year over year in any state in America. And it's expensive down here in Florida, too. So when you look at rising home prices that have not reflected the adjustment in the market and the taxes that are pegged to those higher prices that keep on going higher based upon a high sale price, yeah, it's going to create a lot of problem, including insurance, which is becoming prohibitively expensive, at least down here in Florida, between rising taxes and insurance rates that are going through the roof. Yeah, people are going to have a hard time. Now, I admittingly have not read that story that you're talking about, but it frankly doesn't surprise me one bit. I have never had an adjuster in my house here from Palm Beach County. Now, I hope they're not listening and send someone over here, but they have no idea what the value of my house is. They're guessing. So, this is something that doesn't shock me at all. And I was thinking about it recently. You have all these people not only are trapped at low mortgages that they can't move and even go laterally and take it with them because the cost of money has doubled. But as to your point, I was thinking, my goodness, between insurance, between the just inflation, and between higher taxes, it's becoming quite prohibitive. And in Florida, in most of the communities in Florida, you have some form of HOA tax, and in the it's really a problem in the condominiums where HOA taxes are going through the roof, and because of the hurricanes and insurance and all of these things, people, as you mentioned, are being priced out of their homes. They're just going to have to walk away and give the keys back to the bank. It's not a good thing, and I don't think it gets any better anytime soon. Much so, and you think you own your house free and clear, don't pay your property taxes once, watch what happens. They'll foreclose on you. But when you talk about the unrealized gain that she's proposing, it will pass in the respect that they're, she's talking about only levying it upon those who have 100 million in assets. What does everyone care about those people, right? Well, not only are those the people who will pick up and leave and move out of this country, even if they live on a boat in the Caribbean or go to the Caymans or wherever the hell they go, they have the ability to do so. They can pick up tent and leave. They're the job creators. They're the ones that are paying massive amounts of taxes. And they're the ones who have huge positions in things like Bitcoin, in things like NVIDIA, and things like Apple. And if they are forced to sell, it's not for us normal folk, but if you have over $100 million in assets, well, what do I care about them? Well, I'll tell you what you'll care about them when between November and January, when they crater the entire system and sell at a regular capital gains rate instead of 44%, or in terms of the unrealized gains, which is anti-American. It will crater and collapse the market. The other thing she talked about was doing taxes or raising the capital gains taxes on those making over $1 million a year. Again, these are very wealthy, successful people who have large portfolios, 401k type of portfolios. Now, it wouldn't affect the 401k, but certainly these people also have investments outside of the 401k that they will sell between November and January, if indeed she does win, based upon the fact that capital gains will double. It's ridiculous. It will crater the markets. It's the onslaught, or the beginning of the onslaught. It's the beginning of a reset. If you did that, you would reset the system like that. And just the amount of selling by the very wealthy people would be enough to crater everything. And I don't know, it's not very well thought out, but here again, it would probably pass because, tax the rich, they don't pay their fair share type of deal. That's not something that will meet much in the way of pushback by the average people, but it will destroy the market in a very, very, very fast fashion.
So
it's really awful.
Stuff.
It's really awful, and it's real. And in places like Southern Florida, the cost of insurance is exorbitant. It's truly off the charts, and you're getting insurance companies leaving, and you get dropped if you make a claim. I had I talked a lot about my daughter and the water damage problem that we had on New Year's Day, where basically her toilet ran for 12 hours, and I could have taken a shower under the ceiling fan underneath her room. The next morning, it was a horrific experience. I paid for it myself, because if I would have claimed it on insurance, I'd have been dropped. And they're dropping people left and right for not making. And it's what's really crazy about insurance down here in Florida. And I don't know if it's this way in the rest of the country. But when I originally moved here, and I was having a hard time getting insurance. I'm like, well, what the hell's going on? I've never made a claim before, and evidently, there were a few claims on this property, both for lightning and one for water. The previous owners. I said, well, what the hell does that have to do with me? They're like, well, it actually follows the house, not just the owner any longer. So insurance companies are making it very difficult. And so when you talk about rising taxes for much of where I live, I think insurance is as big of an issue or more. But you're right. Between taxes and insurance, it's incredibly expensive to live down here. But when I look at it, I can justify it because I'm not paying 10% Minnesota state income tax. Well, that's a convenient way of justifying something that's still absurd and not getting any better.
That's a wrap for today's video. We covered some critical points from Andy Schekman's take on the real estate market, including the shocking decline of property values, the impact of businesses abandoning major cities, and how rising insurance costs and taxes are creating a perfect storm for homeowners. It's clear that we're in the midst of a serious urban decline, with ripple effects that could reshape the entire economy. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this information valuable, please give the video a thumbs up, share it with others, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future insights. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments below.